Now, what I do think we saw in Iowa, and what you're probably going to see on Tuesday in New Hampshire and beyond, is there are a lot of voters that were resigned, that we were targeting, that were interested in another choice, but they did kind of buy into the inevitability argument. And I think that's part of the reason why the turnout was so low, because I think that they just said, well, why go out and do it if Trump is running away from it? So that is going to continue to be the inevitability thing.
Very revealing final interview, as it turns out, the last one conducted by Governor Ron DeSantis before he quit the presidential race, when I pointed out to him that despite all his efforts in Iowa, he still lost all 99 counties in which he competed. Michael Graham joins us right now, the New Hampshire Journal reporter on the implications of all of this, and now the New Hampshire vote tomorrow. Michael, he was talking about the inevitability of Donald Trump then, and now in New Hampshire, the inevitability of him now. What are you seeing? What are you getting?
Well, you've got two pieces. One is the data that's coming in. Suffolk University, David Paleologos, a very good pollster, has been doing daily tracking. And in the course of about a week, the daily tracking has gone from Trump at 50% to Trump at about 57%. So that's not a good direction for Nikki Haley. At the same time, Haley's number has gone up, too. But the University of New Hampshire has been the one poll out of the Real Clear Politics sampling that ever had Trump below 40% in the past 6 months here in New Hampshire. He's always been above. Everyone had him at about 45%. They broke this weekend, and they had him at 50%, too. So that's data. What does that mean? That doesn't mean, enthusiasm. It's not on the ground. Governor Chris Sununu is very popular here, and he's dragging my old governor, Nikki Haley, because I'm from South Carolina, all over the state and making sure she's ubiquitous and everywhere. And so they are going to try to push through and surprise everybody.
The core is following that 40%, I guess, of independents in the state who seem to favor a candidate like a Nikki Haley. I don't know if it'll end up being Nikki Haley, but they're a volatile group to keep on top of. I'm not sure some of these Suffolk and other polls are revealing it, but go, please.
Well, because this is one of the things about being on the ground at New Hampshire Journal is the unaffiliated voters are not independent. They're just voters who won't write Republican or Democrat when they sign up. Okay. Let's face it, Neil, the shape of the two parties, would you want to say you were a Republican or Democrat either?
That's a very good point.
Most of them almost always vote in the same primary. They are unaffiliated Democrats. They vote in the Democratic primary. They almost never vote Republican, or they're unaffiliated Republicans. So what Nikki Haley is counting on isn't having it's true independents swing her way. She's hoping that people who almost never cross over, even though they can because they're unaffiliated, they almost never do because they really are on Team Democrat or Team Republican. She's counting on them coming over, and that's a harder lift than swing voters. Now, at New Hampshire Journal, we did a poll this summer. We got the voter data and found the people who, at some time in the past 4 cycles, they voted in a Republican primary and a Democrat primary, those true independents that I think we mean when we say independent. There's only about 40,000 of them in the state.
Wow.
She needs Democrats to say, I want, once again, not registered Democrats. They can't vote. Right. She needs self-identified Democrats to say, we've got to stop Trump. And those are some of the text messages that are going out here in New Hampshire right now, saying explicitly, if you want to stop Trump, you need to vote Tuesday. Of course, you can stop Trump by voting in November as well.
That's true, too. She's got to keep him under 50%, doesn't she?
So that we're very fortunate. There are a lot of experienced hands. You had Patrick Griffin on earlier on the show, an experienced New Hampshire hand. You talk to these folks, and off the record, because they really, they really are trying to stay neutral. They want the voters to have their say, but it's just hard to understand the logic of Trump won a rural evangelical state with 50%. Then he comes to a suburban, very low, the second lowest church attendance in the country, I think, and he wins that by 50%. You look at South Carolina, he's almost certainly going to do extremely well there on the identity politics issue. South Carolina just Trump is the South Carolina Republican South Carolina always wanted. And so you put all that together, and you have to ask a very tough, pragmatic question. More exciting to me, Neil, I'll be honest with you, I'm watching the Democrats. Because I assume you saw the news story that there's some robocall that went out from somebody. It's a fake call of Biden saying, don't vote, save your vote for November. There's a lot of question about what's going to happen with this weird situation where President Biden tried to kill the First in the Nation primary because the voters here are, quote, too white, close quote. and he wouldn't let his name be on the ballot. Now the local party establishment is begging people to write in his name.
Frantically write his name in.
It is possible, but you have to write it. But here's what's possible. It's possible that Trump could break 60%. I'm not predicting it, but it's realistically possible. And it's possible that Biden could be below 60% in his write-in. Trump could beat Biden on Tuesday. That would be the headline at New Hampshire Journal.
That is very well put. Thank you very much, Michael. Wild times, and they're getting wilder in these next 24 hours.
Wild times.